ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard here to the Sports Talk Nation here on YouTube. Michael Cohen here with you, your host for this Open Mic Program podcast. And it is the trade deadline, which has now come and gone. And, before we welcome in our special guest, let me just say this. This was easily the most uneventful, with the exception of a couple of moves here and there, really one of the most uneventful trade deadlines that we have seen in quite some time. The Yankees did literally nothing. The Mets only got Marcus Stroman. They still think they can contend, even though they're 4 under 500. A lot of good teams decided to just hold on to their prospects and say, "Hey, look, we're just going to roll with what we got." And you know what? We'll see how this thing plays out because it is a very unusual time in Major League Baseball. To break this all down with me, to try to get an understanding, we try to figure out what the hell is going on here in baseball right now. I got my baseball expert on the phone line. Of course, from the Past Ball Show. He's got his own podcast as well, and that is John Pielli. John, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? Always a pleasure to talk to you. I tell you, I look at the trading deadline, and I think of that football game that's like 3-0 going into the last minute of the game, and all of a sudden it finishes like 2017 because the 3 or 4 big trades that were made in that last minute really made the deadline go from being, wow, one of the worst ever to a little bit interesting. A little bit, especially with Zach Greinke going over from the Arizona Diamondbacks to the Houston Astros, the Braves picking up Shane Green and Mark Melancon from the Giants. So, there are a couple interesting moves, but, man, I've never seen so much gridlock and inactivity, really kind of just hand-wringing from just about every team and every fan base, for that matter, going down towards the deadline. Usually we would see a couple of big moves made even on the eve of the trade deadline or the morning of the trade deadline. And outside of Marcus Stroman, we almost had practically nothing until what we've had here in the last until the last second. Yeah, I tell you, man, you look at the Yankees, Dodgers, the Cardinals, they're teams that stand out that all had specific needs. The Cardinals could have definitely used a starter. The Yankees, obviously, were looking for a starting pitcher. And the Dodgers, who looked like they were letting a couple prospects that they love hold them back from getting Felipe Vasquez from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I think they're all going to look back on it and say, what would this season be like if we ended up making those moves? Because, yeah, sure, the Dodgers and the Yankees don't have anything to worry about getting to the playoffs. Cardinals, yeah, they'll be in the mix. Maybe they get in, maybe they don't. But, the trading deadline, these type of moves, these are the ones that help you win a World Series championship, not just hang around and say, hey, we got to the playoffs this year.
Yeah. Let's pick on the Yankees here just a little bit because they did literally nothing. The only move they made was trading for a minor league pitcher from the Colorado Rockies. That's it. And that's all they've done. And they are resting on their laurels of what they have, and that is really just stunning to me, considering the issues they have in their starting rotation. We still don't know when Luis Severino, if he is ever going to come back this year. Masahiro Tanaka, of course, you're putting all this onus on him now for the stretch run of the season. Domingo Germán's never pitched a postseason game in his life. You have James Paxton as well as J.A. Happ, 2 veteran guys, left-handers who haven't pitched that well. They've been inconsistent at times throughout the course of this year. And, of course, CeCe at the end of the line here in his last year. You would have thought the Yankees would have done anything to try to get some starting pitching. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination that the market just really never came back to them. Or, as we discussed off air, Brian Cashman just being so stubborn with his prospects.
Yeah, I tell you, it looks bad. Brian Cashman has a great track record, obviously. Considered one of the more shrewd general managers in all of baseball. If you look at some of the trades he's made over the last decade or 2 decades, he's fleeced a lot of teams. I don't know if there was anything on the horizon that would have allowed him to do that, and maybe that's why he got away. But I thought of this aspect of it too. The Yankees have to go out there and win. The expectations for this team this year is not just to hang around in the playoffs, get through the division series, play in the championship series. It's to get to the World Series and win. So if the Yankees don't win the World Series this year, or at least get to the World Series and put up a little bit of a fight, it's going to look as if the whole season was a disappointment. So Brian Cashman essentially is doubling down on what he did this offseason. Re-signing J. Happ, bringing back Sabathia, trading for James Paxton. Right now that doesn't look so good, but I guess he's given them a vote of confidence that they're going to somehow turn it around. But I'll tell you, man, there's a lot that has to happen for that to change. And if it doesn't, it's just going to look bad on Brian Cashman. He's doubling down on what it is that he believed in this offseason. And if it doesn't work, there's really going to be nobody else in the Yankees organization to blame but him.
Yeah, I mean, he's now squarely on the hot seat for the rest of this season. I mean, if they go out there and lose in the first round of playoffs to a Cleveland or an Oakland or Tampa Bay, as hard as that may be to believe, that could indeed happen. Or if they go out there and lose to Houston or Minnesota in the ALCS, there's going to be hell to pay for what Brian Cashman didn't do, not just here at the deadline, but even during the season. I mean, he had Dallas Keuchel and even Craig Kimbrell sitting out there waiting for a contract from anybody and decided not to make a move. Of course, Kimbrell goes to the Cubs and Keuchel now with the Atlanta Braves. He did nothing to improve what was an obvious weakness for this ball club. This is when they had all those injuries that they were in going through early in the season.
Yeah, and I tell you, it's funny to look at it. I mean, if you look at the Yankees' position in the standings, they won today. They're, 8 games up on Tampa Bay. They probably don't have a lot to worry about in regards to winning this division. They play good baseball, better than 500 baseball the rest of the way out. They don't have to go on a ridiculous run, and they got the division pretty much locked and guaranteed. But it wasn't like they didn't come into this trading deadline with any issues. I mean, they weren't like a top team in baseball that was clicking on all cylinders and had nothing to worry about. There are major flaws in this Yankee starting rotation. Masahiro Tanaka, going back to the Boston game they played in London, has looked awful in his last 3 or 4 starts. He's supposed to be their best pitcher by a mile. Jay Happ is certainly not the pitcher that they got when they traded for him last year from Toronto. You look at James Paxton, who every now and then gives a sharp start. Outside of that, he hasn't been good this year. What do you have in a Yankee starting rotation if you're a Yankees fan that makes you excited, that makes you trust in a regular season game, let alone in a postseason game when you could go up against the Houston Astros and have to go up against a rotation that's got Verlander, Cole, and Greinke? Who do they have in that rotation that's going to hang with any of those guys? So this is why I really feel like, and I hate to say this because I try to be objective, but it really looks like the Yankees dropped the ball here.
Oh, no, they absolutely did. I mean, you can't go out there and win not 10-9 every day. I mean, I remember years ago when the Texas Rangers, had all these great offensive pieces, A-Rod and Juan Gonzalez and Rafael Palmeiro, and the whole knock on those teams, and this going back to the early 2000s, the knock on those teams was, well, can they pitch? And the answer is no, they can't pitch. Every game was like 9-8, 7-6. You can't play those kind of games in the postseason. And once you get to the postseason, it's a totally different game. You're talking about having to go into your bullpen sometimes earlier than you would do so in a regular season game. Sometimes 3rd, 4th inning. And are we going to sit here and watch Aaron Boone, depending on how far the Yankees go in the playoffs, tax this bullpen, which, let's be honest, has been taxed already in the regular season? That's going to be a big issue. I mean, they didn't even do anything to try to get another reliever to help these guys out.
Now, the thing that has frustrated me about the postseason the last 3 or 4 years is the fact that the longer these series go on, the individual series, best of 5, best of 7, all these teams keep doing is relying on the same relievers game after game after game. And, if you're a manager, you look through the past season and see what got you there, and you say, hey, I want to put the ball in my best pitcher's hands. And a lot of times it's multiple relievers that these teams got. You look at the Yankees, obviously they're stacked with the talent that they have in their bullpen. And it's going to be very easy, even in a best-of-5 series, for these pitchers to get taxed, to be used a lot more often than they were during the regular season. And you put an offense, even if it's a marginal offense, against a good bullpen, and you put those same relievers out game after game after game. Who gets the advantage? The offense does. The offense gets a better look at these relievers every single time they come in there. So the fact that, you're going to, whatever the opponent is of the Yankees, you're going to be facing these same relievers, you're going to have an offensive advantage at some point. And I can't see the Yankees, if they don't have starting pitching that's going to go at least through 6 innings, at least pitch into the 7th inning. In a lot of these games in the playoffs, they're going to be at an extreme disadvantage because these relievers that they run out there, I wouldn't care if it's the reincarnation of Goose Gossage and Sparky Lyle and Mariano Rivera.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get taxed. They're going to get overused, and the advantage is going to go to the hitters.
Yeah, it really is, and especially when you face. We already saw it with Minnesota last week how good that team is as far as the power is concerned. I mean, they hit the ball all over the yard. We know what Houston can do. They are a team that grinds out at bats. I mean, their Yankees are going to be in a situation where they're going to have a very large hill to climb just to get out of the American League and get to a World Series. And who knows who's going to be there on the other end? It could be the Dodgers, could be the Cubs, could be the Braves, and those teams can hit as well. Let's jump over here to the Mets, and I'll start off with this. When the word came down Sunday that they were going to acquire Marcus Stroman, which shocked me, and then could still trade Noah Syndergaard, I actually got furious. I'm thinking to myself, so what are you guys trying to do? Are you trying to contend? Are you trying to rebuild? Why would you acquire Marcus Stroman and then necessarily trade Noah Syndergaard? We all know that did not happen, but when that went down, I was like, what are these guys trying to do? And now that they have decided not to trade Syndergaard, which I thought was the right move, and then now not trade Zach Wheeler, not trade Edwin Diaz because really there's no market for him right now because he's pitching, I can't sit here and say that I hate what the Mets did and didn't do, because at the end of the day, they now, in my mind, hold all the cards for the rest of this year and next year. How do you feel?
Well, I look at Brodie Van Wagenen and what he has said and what he has believed.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I'm going to preface everything I'm about to say that whether the Mets succeed or not is going to fall 100% on Brodie Van Wagenen's plate.
Sure.
If the Mets don't succeed this year, it's on Brodie Van Wagenen. If the Mets don't succeed next year, the year after, it's going to be because Brodie Van Wagenen didn't do a good enough job. Mm-hmm. That being said, even though he's not 100% communicating exactly what his plan is, he believes in something. He believes in a team now. He believes in a team in 2020. And it's just hard when a guy hasn't gone out there and made a move that has wowed you.
No.
The Edwin Diaz trade with Cano has been a disaster. Just about every move that he's made from the offseason on has not worked out to this point. So, all that being said, it's hard to trust in somebody that hasn't come through yet. That being said, it's still going to be up to him the way he wants to handle.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've been very critical of Brodie Van Wagenen right from the jump. I was not crazy about the Cano Diaz trade from the beginning because of the contract with Cano coming back. I was concerned about Diaz and wondering, why is Seattle willing to get rid of this guy coming off of such a great year? Well, now we know why, for that matter. But I just look at what they've done here. I could sit here and say, well, they're not really going to go to the playoffs this year. That's part of the reason why I thought getting Marcus Stroman was kind of a waste when you can go out there, load up on some minor league talent, and move on from some guys that are probably not going to be here, like a Zach Wheeler. You could maybe find some kind of market for Edwin Diaz if any existed. Maybe get a prospect, nothing terrific, but a prospect for him. But at the same token, you've now put yourself in a position where in 2020, if this thing tanks, you can get some excitement going for next year into spring training. But if you're a year from now and you're sitting here and this team's not going anywhere, and this team's 7, 8, 9, 10 games under 500 again in June going into July, blow this thing up, blow it up, and start getting some big prospects from some teams, because now you're the Mets. You are now loaded up on starting pitching. Let's say they do bring back a Zach Wheeler on a 1 or 2 year deal. If they can make that possible, you can now possibly trade Syndergaard, Wheeler, and Stroman, who's in a contract year in 2020. But it's a huge gamble that they have taken.
Yeah, listen, I agree with a lot of what you said, but there are a lot of what ifs.
Yes.
What if a lot of what I've been saying about teams hugging and holding on to their prospects is 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
What if Brodie Van Wagenen was really trying to trade Syndergaard and Wheeler, and teams were really trying to lowball him?
Mm-hmm.
And you hear a lot of the contrary, that Brodie was asking for too much. But what if these teams were really looking to take advantage? How would you feel today if Edwin Diaz was traded for a couple, low A players with a little bit of upside? You feel like he screwed up. So once again, none of this stuff's public. We don't know exactly what the negotiations are between the teams, but we do know that Brodie Van Wagenen is one of the most, outspoken general managers in all of baseball. He is on the phone probably as much as anybody else out there. I'm confident he was trying to get something done. And listen, I'm happier now than I would be if this was a trading deadline like 2017 with the Mets or 2018 with the Mets, where the Mets were basically just selling off players to save themselves some cash. Name one player that they've gotten the last two mid-seasons that is anything worth being excited about in the future for the Mets. The answer is nobody. There is a lot of hope for the Mets youth that they have. You just have to sprinkle in a couple impact players, relievers, maybe a center fielder. I mean, I can't remember the last time the Mets had a real center fielder.
Carlos Beltran.
It'd be nice to see what they would look like if they had a little more of a complete team. So I'm not looking at this team as necessarily on the way down, and the main reason is the young talent that really is the core and centripetal force of this team right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, if the Mets go out there and get a true center fielder, not a Keon Broxton, obviously, go out there and get a real center fielder, move possibly a Jeff McNeil over into the infield where he belongs, second base, third base, find a shortstop or or another second baseman for that matter. You got to figure out something. You got to figure out something to do with Cano because he's going to be here for a few more years. That contract is going to kill them going into the offseason next year. They're going to be kicking themselves if they're not kicking themselves already with that contract still in the books for the next few years. So they really got to improve in my mind up the middle from catcher to second base and shortstop, and a center field. I mean, when you have a guy like Marcus Stroman who's a ground ball pitcher, you got to have a good defense, and the Mets don't have that right now.
And the funny thing about it is the one player that I think a lot of Mets fans were expecting them to trade, Todd Frazier, is their best defensive infielder. So at least they're holding on to him for a couple more months.
At least that. I mean, he'll be out of here by October, but still, it's just such a weird scenario. I mean, I actually got into a text message battle thing with a friend at work, and he's like, So, the Mets are going for it here. I'm like, yeah, you know what's going to happen next? They're probably going to re-sign Mickey Callaway to an extension. And then I thought to myself, that could actually happen.
I tell you, that's another conversation altogether. Right?
Oh, man.
You wonder. I mean, Mickey Callaway has not proven himself to be a good manager.
Oh,
I'm not ever going to take that side of the argument. But the question's always going to be, what is he given the power to do? Mm-hmm. Is he writing his own lineups? I don't think he is.
I don't think so.
Is he given a list of exactly what times to go to certain relievers? The Edwin Diaz thing, as far as using him for more than 3 outs. I mean, to me, that reeks of something that's over his head. Mm-hmm. That's being told to him. And Mickey Callaway flipping out in that one press conference. I mean, I believe the only one that saw it completely the way that it might have really been. That might have been Mickey Callaway being asked, why aren't you using Edwin Diaz for more than 3 outs? Probably thinking in his head, I want to use Edwin Diaz for more than 3 outs, but I'm not allowed to. Yeah. And that's probably why he exploded.
Yeah, and who knows what that conversation was between he and Van Wagenen that led to Van Wagenen taking a chair and smashing it across the room. Yeah. I mean, people may say, I think people think that, the Mets lost, he took a chair and threw it across the room. Well, maybe Callaway said to him, I would like to use such and such and such and such for a certain amount of outs. You're not letting me do it. And he probably said, yeah, we know it, screw you. Boom, that was it. So who knows? It's so bizarre.
I mean, he wants, Mickey Callaway, just like any other employee, wants to hold on to their job. So, your job is to report directly to the people that are above you. You're not going to intentionally cause a risk if your job's going to be at risk. So I'm waiting for Mickey Callaway, when he's long gone as the Met manager, to write his book. Mm-hmm. And his book is going to be called "I Didn't Do It." And I would love to be the first one to interview him and talk about everything that happened while he was the manager of the Mets.
That would be a New York Times bestseller. I didn't do it. My life and times as the manager of the New York Mets. With the preamble will be by Willie Randolph, how I got fired for 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, Jesus. Oh, the Mets just kill me. They really do. If they don't make, they're not. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But if they don't make the playoffs, what's the excuse going to be? When we're sitting here in 2 months from these guys,
I don't know. I mean, listen. I think Brody has put himself in a good position where he has a couple of lifelines.
Yeah.
I mean, he could part ways with Callaway and not even have to really give an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
It's, hey, I didn't hire this manager. It might have worked well, but hey, I want the opportunity to bring in my own guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to get a pass for whatever happened this year, which, was unfortunate because a lot of the moves that he made directly are the reason why the Mets aren't any better than they were last year. But
last thing here, John, before we go, who would you say would be your big winner here at the deadline?
Oh, it's easily the Astros.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it looked like it looked like you could say Atlanta. I mean, I think Atlanta did a great job. Washington actually did a pretty good job. Added themselves 3 relievers. There's a handful of teams that did well, but I'll tell you, within that last 10 minutes from 3:50 to 4 o'clock Eastern, the Astros took over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they made that trade with Toronto to get Aaron Sanchez and Joe Biagini, and you hear all the experts right away. They're like, what are the Astros going to be able to do with Aaron Sanchez?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're going to focus on his spin rate, and he's going to be just as dominant as Ryan Presley was last year, or Garrett Cole or Verlander when they came to the Astros. So you could look at Sanchez by himself as far as being an underrated guy that's going to all of a sudden unlock the box of what he was supposed to be when he was a prospect in Toronto. And then they go out there and get Zach Greinke. I mean, I almost fell off my chair when I heard Ken Rosenthal say that, the Astros got Zach Greinke. I'm like, are you serious? First of all, he's pitching against the Yankees as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Matt, it's just unbelievable to imagine him and Cole and Verlander. I know Cole won't be back next year probably, but listen, the Astros are, from an offensive standpoint to their pitching roster, 1 through 25, they got the best record in baseball. It's their World Series to lose right now.
Oh yeah.
And if they are able to keep their players healthy and do what they're supposed to do, listen, I think this is looking like a very good season for the Houston Astros.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I would lean towards the Braves, like what they did to improve their bullpen by getting Green and Melanson. But let's be honest. This is all about the team that's probably going to win the World Series anyway. And with the way things are looking, anything could happen. I understand that, but right now you would have to say the Houston Astros are in the catbird seat to win a World Series for the second time in 3 years. You got Cole. I mean, you throw Wade Miley in there, who's had a great year this year. Verlander, who's been unbelievable this year yet again. You now add Greinke. I mean, I think that what completed that deal was when Greinke made Aaron Judge look bad this afternoon on a strikeout in the 5th inning. So, okay, that's it. We're going to get this guy. So they are the team to beat, no doubt about it. Once again, I mean, I will be shocked if they're not hoisting up the trophy at the end of the year.
It's going to lead to some good baseball in the next couple months of the season. So who knows what you end up seeing? I mean, I think your division winners are fairly set. I think the Cubs are probably going to hold off the Cardinals and the Brewers. But when it comes to that wild card, you got Washington, you got Philadelphia, you got Milwaukee, St. Louis. Even the Giants barely hanging around. I mean, it's going to be some fun baseball to watch. I'm just interested to see how it ends up turning out.
I agree with you, my man. I agree with you, John. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch here down the stretch. As we move into August through September, the wild card race is going to be crazy. Even a couple of these division races, like the AL Central, is going to be nuts, especially with Minnesota and Cleveland battling it out there as well. So, folks, once again, thank you all for tuning in and listening. Remember, John Pielli, Michael Cohen here with you, talking trade deadline. Of course, we'll have John again at some point here in the next few weeks as we move down the stretch towards the postseason. John, always a pleasure, my man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Mike. Good talking to you.
All right.